So a little while back when, I was shuffling around old boxes in my attic when I stumbled upon an old game cartridge I probably hadn't touched in forever. A game called Super FNAF, I think. I wonder if it still boots up. Super Five Nights at Freddy's, or just Super FNAF, was a fan game released in late 2016 by Lylly, referred to in this game mainly as LSF Development, which set out to create a 2D pixelated side-scroller in the style of an SNES game. Do you get the bit now? Retelling the events of the missing children's incident coming out of the Five Nights at Freddy's series. A whole 8 years before the release of Into the Pit, mind you. While yeah, sure, the series is technically no stranger to side-scrolling platformers, a lot of these are mostly either locked to lore-specific minigames or just spin-off games in general, and not very good ones at that. So something that takes this idea, gives more thought into the story, and really stretches it all out to offer like some sort of explanation for the majority of the important events in the series, I mean at least up to Sister Location by then, sounds like a really cool idea for a fan game, and a lot of other people thought so as well at the time. But did it exactly stick that landing? Well, no better way to find out than by, you know, actually playing through it. The game starts at the very beginning of our first night on the job, but instead of actually being on the job, we're instead playing as the animatronics, at least the main four from the first game. Night 1 here really revolves around the main gang's general perspective on things, especially their eternal tombs inside the animatronic bodies. Each time they take out the new night guard on their shift, they're just sort of secretly hoping it turns out to be their original killer, the one who put them in this whole mess, as they know that ending the life of, him will seemingly set them all free. So with this knowledge, Freddy tasks Bonnie to get a scope of the new guy, which also lets us finally get a good look at the rest of the interior of the pizzeria here. Now, creating the general layout of the first game's pizzeria to a T in a completely 2D, 16-bit presenting side-scroller based on the series all in 2016 was likely not an easy task to replicate. But honestly, I think this game did it perfectly. Every important location and room is featured here and fully detailed too, with very good looking pixel art and lighting fitted around. I mean, even the cameras move depending on where you go. A lot of the decorations and accessories that fill the pizzeria can also be interacted with. In fact, I mean, practically every notable little trinket here has some piece of dialogue associated with it. It also seems like somebody blew up the urinal. It probably happened on the day shift, not sure. Anyway, when finally getting close to the office area through the west hallway, I mean, it's the only one Bonnie can actually access here, he finally gets a good look at the new guy on the job, but also simultaneously sending him to a flashback set in Fredbear's family diner all the way back in 1985. We are now playing as a kid named Richie, who'd been invited to this kid's birthday party, and is just generally greeting these guests around, who also look an awful lot like some of the series' characters for some reason. Strange coincidence, I'm sure. Going to the front of the place greets you with a lone Fredbear up on his stage. I wonder where Bonnie flew off to. Oh, there he is. He seems to have a special surprise for our big birthday party hidden somewhere in this room. Surely nothing bad happens here. I mean, just look at that grin. Flashback over, and Bonnie is astonished that the security guard working the shift this night is actually him this time. However, don't get so eager now. This guy seems to have a few max modes to his belt. His reaction time is impeccable. So Bonnie just reports back to Freddy, telling him the good news and also rounding up Foxy in the process. Like the other 87 times. Oh, 87. I get it, guys, it's FNAF. Night 2 progresses with this same revelation. Freddy handing you a spare key to the kitchen to gather more troops for, I guess, the start of the new Fazbear War or something. A new mechanic is brought in with this night too, as now you're able to swap to a separate character here whenever you want by pressing C, which means you get access to both Chica and Foxy, which just barely have differences from Bonnie, at least gameplay-wise. Foxy's like a bit faster, obviously, and I think Chica stays in the air maybe slightly longer than normal. Making your way to the kitchen finds us in the home of the marionettes? Also Golden Freddy, he's here too, I guess. Specifically, it seems the puppet here has a lot more information about him than ever previously discussed. And the gang feels that they need to know anything they can that can help them gain an early advantage into this kill. However, the marionette is skeptical about this whole thing. Delightful. Meaning Chica's gotta get a good picture of the guy before the puppet here spills the beans. So I guess it's a good thing a leftover customer here left their $1,300 camera just lying around on these grease-covered tables. In fact, this isn't the only item that you can collect here. As hidden around the pizzeria, you can also gather quarters littered on the floor here that are used to play one specific arcade machine next to the restrooms, called Foxy Hallway Runner. Guys, this minigame is so hard. You essentially play as Foxy, who would have guessed, and have to dodge obstacles while also getting progressively faster over the course of 8 or so levels. But I've only been able to get about like halfway through this thing, since you can only take 3 hits before becoming out of order, and are only given like 3 lives to your name before you need another quarter to replay the entire thing again. So, supposedly, at least according to the FNAF Fan Game Wiki, thank you FNAF Fan Game Wiki, the last level of the minigame just sort of decorates the hallway in a Foxy Go 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 section from the original FNAF 2 minigame, with a purple guy cameo, and I guess a couple dead children. Yippee. Anyway, back to the story part. Chica follows through and snapping a quick pic of the night guard, but suddenly we're transported back to another flashback, this time of Amanda, one of the members of the previously mentioned birthday party. It seems we've cut a little bit after that last flashback, as Amanda is the only one left in the group alive before this purpley guy seems to stuff her into another suit backstage. A pretty disturbing vision, honestly. After bringing the photo back to the puppet, our suspicions are verified. This seems to be the same dude, or him. Sorry, him. The puppet here sends us to yet another flashback, one in which the puppet tells the tale of, well, I guess the puppet, you know, the whole kid outside pizzeria getting killed sort of thing. Uh-oh, almost hit me. Before I knew what had happened, he jumped out of the car. Oh my god! He did that so fast! This also verifies the idea that revenge is the only way for these kids to pass on, at least according to the marionette. So, honestly, thanks for that, I guess. Didn't really give us a whole lot of intel here. If you haven't noticed so far, this go to the office, talk to somebody, then kind of just go back to another spot in the pizzeria is kind of the main gameplay loop here, which is probably, unfortunately, my biggest gripe with this game. Well, and there's one more later. There's a pretty clear imbalance on the whole gameplay versus story side of things, which certainly isn't a problem, but if you're not a fan of this interpretation of the story, then there's really not a whole lot else to grab onto, besides the, again, really well-made visuals. I think allowing a few more of these arcade games to be playable and making the character switching almost mandatory, because honestly, you could go the whole game without touching it if you really wanted to, could make this side a little more impactful to me. Anyway, getting off track, this all leads into night 3, and Freddy here is ready to get his hands dirty this time. The pizzeria also seems to be filled with these ghost children this night, wearing the heads of some of the toy animatronics, implying that we were probably not the only ones to meet a similar fate from this magenta-tinted man. Freddy's honestly pretty poor attempt at catching the killer fails as you'd expect. Well, that didn't work out. Yeah, standing next to the door and just, yeah, Freddy just retire at this point, deciding that the only way to properly catch him is to use the full extent of their Fazbear coalition, the power of teamwork, if you will. However, this also involves a member that we haven't gotten quite accustomed to yet, the yellower shade of Freddy, and he's really not all happy to help. Please, can you just, you know, I'll look at Freddy. I said no. Reason being is that the rest of the gang has sort of placed the blame of their unfortunate demises solely on him, as Golden Freddy, Michael in this case, was actually the one who threw the birthday party in the first place. The puppet decides the best course of action for a good old apology from the crew is throwing him a proper birthday party this time. But the marionette is admittedly a little lazy to gather cake ingredients and such, calling upon the wandering ghost children to help out a little. With a clear call back to the secret minigames from FNAF 3, you have to gather 4 different layers of the big birthday cake while mostly doing these little platforming challenges. And a Guitar Hero section, I guess. I will say, something I haven't really mentioned before is that the vast majority of the background music coming from the game is actually mostly popular fan songs of the series, coming from artists like The Living Tombstone, JT Music, DA Games, Mando Pony is featured quite a bit here too. They're all done in this style to obviously sort of emulate a 16-bit game, but sound a lot to me like old Minecraft note block renditions of these songs. It was quite a nostalgic experience to say the least. Anyway, with the birthday cake fully formed and the table set, the whole Faz gang issues a well-earned apology to Michael. And good news, he's willing to accept. I mean, look at that grin. However, I guess this took all night to prepare, so on to night 4 to finally end this whole mess for good. Finally united, the entire crew is ready for a group sneak attack, all hands on deck sort of thing. Also, just a side note, but the names for these kids in the game are obviously a bit different from what the series has adjusted to now. So for future reference, since their true names are all revealed by now, and also just that's what they call each other here, Freddy is named Daniel, or Dan, Bonnie was that kid named Richie, Chica is Amanda, and Foxy is named Francis. Yeah, I mean, all a little different. This time, we slowly march to the office as Freddy. It seems it's his fun mechanic to differentiate himself from the rest. He's just slower than everybody, while also getting visions of more and more flashbacks, revealing once more how the children actually died. I think I get the picture.
Oh my god! Well, that didn't go as planned. Jesus.
This time, the pizzeria has been fitted with as many hallucinations and Easter eggs from the original as possible. Oh, yeah, the puppet also keeps jump scaring you too. Right before reaching the office, we also get another flashback cutting to the aftermath of the incident. It seems the police were never able to find any of the children from the party, and a lone mother is left to wallow in guilt about leaving their child behind. Now I suffer the curse, and now I am blind. Oh, sorry, the music is getting to me. With the whole crew surrounding the doors and purposely draining this guard's power down, we're met with, well, another flashback. We're back with the mother from before, who's now that I'm looking at it close, I guess she's wearing a Japanese schoolgirl uniform for some reason, looking like she came out of like Yandere Simulator, and is obviously pretty distraught about this whole thing. She seems to be on the phone with a lovely Officer Dawkins, kind of letting her know that they're not giving up on the case, even though they also practically have no leads whatsoever. So she then ends her life. Quite the pile of bodies you've accumulated here, Mr. Afton. Jesus. The office doors finally run out of power, and just as Freddy is ready to prepare the death blow, he notices that, well, there's actually nobody in the office chair at all. Yeah, it seems he left pretty early into the night here somehow, just leaving the office doors down to trick them. Chica, you were literally looking through the window here. Who were you looking at exactly? Anyway, their eyes are drawn to this spare newspaper clipping that their killer probably left here for them. A notice telling them that the pizzeria is set to completely close down really soon. While this obviously upsets them a bit, they're still adamant in their killer's return, even if they have to wait forever, resulting in the abandoned ending. But, as the title screen now indicates, we may have sort of missed a little someone on our first playthrough here. To get to the game's Night 5, yeah, reminder, we didn't even fully get to Night 5, available from basically the start, all the way back in Night 1 of the game, Shadow Bonnie can actually be found in the pizzeria supply closet. Here you learn that whatever spirit is inhabiting this form supposedly died in 1980 something. However, I guess they just kind of want to double check that, you know, they died by taking a peek at their officially filed death report. So if you don't mind a quick fetch quest, you learn that this ghost was the product of a faulty spring lock accident at an older location, which was, if you didn't know, actually a pretty popular theory at the time to explain the existence of the shadow animatronics in the original game series. Anyway, the spirit grants you a key for your hard work, which actually doesn't do a whole lot if you're not a fan of foreign dairy products, or I guess just Balloon Boy.
Hello.
The second step to getting this knight involves, you guessed it, Shadow Freddy, who can be found later on in the game hiding in the corners of the bathroom area. Oh, there he is. He seems much less interested than his rabbit counterpart in sappy stuff like death, only wanting to play a few rounds of hide and seek around the pizzeria. Although he's got quite the camouflage, his big head does tend to stick out a little. Sorry, little guy, never making it to the big leagues like this. Doing so rewards you, actually, this time with a code, which, if input into this awfully suspicious looking pizza decoration on the wall here, gives you access to a room that reveals further insight into the company's shady past. Not that we really need it, I got a pretty good picture here. And also, my boy Mike's here too, just taking a nap, it seems. Continuing on with the abandoned ending, just like normal, we'll give you a new MCU post-credit scene this time, with Shadow Bonnie jumping into one of the many broken arcade machines to enact a similar setup to his FNAF 3 minigame debut. We get a good look at a few locations we'd never even seen before in this game, until we're greeted with the FNAF 4 bite victim, I'd assume. Also revealing that Shadow Bonnie is actually this kid's father here, which also implies that Shadow Freddy is specifically this kid's spirit too. This all finally follows into Night 5, or Day 5, or I mean, I guess not really day 5, a few days after all that, which lands us on the pizzeria's last day of operations, with a few kids saying their final goodbyes to Freddy and the crew. Quite a sad scene too, as Freddy, or Daniel in this case, seems to break the spiritual plane with a few tears to, well, I mean, actually another kid named Daniel. A few months later leads us to the actual night 5. Wait, no it wouldn't. This would at the very least be like night 91, 92, 94 or something like that. Anyway, it seems the building is completely abandoned now, leaving all the animatronics still in the building for some reason. I mean, come on, even Chuck E. Cheese isn't that wasteful of a business. What follows is basically the Follow Me minigame from FNAF 3, with Shadow Freddy in this scary voice. Follow me. Leading all the animatronics to a secret safe room we'd never been able to access before in the restroom area of the pizzeria. Except, as you probably know, these animatronics aren't exactly built to access this private room, and all get chopped up by a purple man. Yes, William Afton finally making his grand appearance here with, I mean, of course, a few musical notes from the Living Tombstone, funnily enough. William seems dead set on destroying any evidence of his past evil deeds, including the robot bodies of those he'd mercilessly killed before. However, you forgot one. Golden Freddy, Michael here, is guided by the puppet to bring an end to this monster, and with a few newfound ghostly friends by his side, their combined scare factor has reached world record-breaking highs. So much so that William does what he does best, and dies. This'll end nicely. This does what the kids were set out to achieve, and they're all physically lifted into the afterlife. But the puppet seems to stay, leading to a 30-year time jump where 2 idiots decide to uncover and take a bunch of stuff, including a rotten smelling moldy rabbit thing, from a completely unprofitable pizza chain for a makeshift horror attraction. Yeah, we're in FNAF 3 now. Now playing as Springtrap in night 6? Oh, no. This would be like night 11,000 or something. We can visit the new Fazbear's Fright. Just a little though. In the middle of William's pondering sesh, he's rudely interrupted by the puppet. Yeah, he stayed here for 30 whole years. Reason being that he's essentially keeping good old Willy here on life support in the springlock suit his corpse is inhabiting. Some good needed karma for a few of the misdeeds he did now 30 years ago. The attraction itself, or at least the items some guys stole from it, are also fully interactable, giving some insight on how William saw this line of business in his head. But just before getting to the security guard's office here, William has a few things he wants to get off his chest first, since I guess he feels kind of haunted by murdering children. Yeah, I mean, makes sense to me. This is all followed by a big info dump on his motive, which is admittedly a little different from what we know about this series right now, to say the least. William, being the co-owner with a business partner for Fredbear's, yeah, we know this, was supposedly hired by a company to put child trapping mechanisms in the animatronics this time. In this case, for experiments, and I guess his psychopathic tendencies and, of course, the good pay made this sort of fine mentally for him. It seems he's talking mainly about the fun times here, at least being the ones equipped with the child abduction stuff, blueprints or whatever, which gets him to break the news about how his daughter died. You can probably fill in the blanks from here. This event supposedly broke him completely, and to add on to it, his adopted son also died in a pretty, well, you also probably know what happens here. Also, just a side note, the bite victim in this case, who's revealed here as William's adopted son, would probably mean that his real father, I'd assume, would be Shadow Bonnie, or the person in it. Otherwise, I mean, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Anyway, these two events happening basically one after another in such a short amount of time led him to commit his first kill. The one outside Fredbear's, feeling as if it wouldn't be fair to be the only parent without dead children on the premises, I guess. Although, come on, this is still entirely his fault. Sure, I guess this Fredbear incident may have not been, directly caused by him, whether or not this, Foxy Bro guy is really Michael Afton or not, I don't know, it's not really addressed here, but this baby incident is entirely his fault, I don't care. His sappy words directly lead to a choice that you, the player, have to make on your own. Either forgive William for literally killing about, 11 children that we know of here, for, really no good reason at all, not that there is a good reason for that, or, naturally kick him to the curb. Kicking him to said curb leads to, honestly, quite a funny ending. All the children coming back in spirit form to ridicule William's attempts to apologize, in which he throws a little fit and decides to burn the entire attraction to the ground. And when I say entire, I am not kidding in the slightest. You have to literally douse every inch of every available room in Fazbear's Fright. It takes a while. A fun little addition here with this ending is that William has something new to say about some of the accessories decorated in the location.
If someone ever shows this bear to me again, I'll choke them to death. Okay, calm down. I mean, this should be like the the game sucks. The job had terrible pay anyway.
After drenching the place in gasoline, you get to take a visit to the security guard's office, where William forcibly starts an electrical fire and, well, simply leaves the place. Escaped ending. However, I mean, there was another choice to pick here. But just before we get to that, I repeat, William was hired by a company to kidnap children, also admitting he had literally no remorse in doing so. Then, when this said thing happens directly to him, his daughter dying on basically his own hands, he decides to murder said children. Again, 11 of them, stuffing them in suits so they practically become restless and immortal, then axing them all up to cover this evidence so he never gets caught. Also definitely causing at least 2 parent deaths here in the process. So, while I don't really want to, I guess I'll reluctantly welcome the possibility of forgiving this heartless monster. After all, he supposedly had a few night terrors, so. This ending starts with the puppets saying that they've been waiting for this moment for 30 whole years. The killer telling them his motive for everything, along with the rest of the children forgiving him completely for his crimes. Okay. The puppets, or I guess Sammy in this case, the name probably coming from the brother of Charlotte in the Silver Eyes novel, finally going to, like, heaven after all this time, I guess, and William deciding to burn the whole place down again.
Oh my god, I gotta do this again? No way! You're killing me here!
Also, just like with the last ending, he says different things now when interacting with stuff, which I honestly think makes his previous comments even funnier here.
Working there was actually not that bad. Okay. Oh my god.
After doing all this, which takes the same amount of time, you visit the office and start the fire just like last time. But William instead decides to stay put, laying his spirit to rest, just like, again, the children that he killed. I'm not sure exactly which direction he ended up going in here, but again, the end. Which also kind of gets us to the end of Super FNAF's general content. Besides a, to my knowledge, now lost Halloween edition for the game, a minigame to go with it, and a few pieces of content that were just removed for kind of being a little redundant, this is all there is to Super Five Nights at Freddy's. As much as it is a retelling of certain ideas and theories thrown around the series at the time, I still think this is such a cool way to present it. And while the gameplay itself might be like a little on the lackluster side, it definitely makes up for it with how it showcases certain characters and events here. But, as you'd imagine, with how popular the fan game was getting at the time, and some of the more cheeky Easter eggs inside it, about a year afterward was the announcement of a sorta sequel under the name of Super Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Wonderful Day. Looking to be completely centered around Sister Location, or at least based on some of the events of the game, gameplay footage and trailers show off a pretty big departure from its predecessor, with different levels and I guess actual platforming this time. Plus, I mean, this is probably one of the coolest teaser trailers I've ever seen for a fan game before. Wow. During this lead up to the sequel though, Lylly would also officially unlist Super FNAF from Game Jolt. A reason being that she felt it teetered too much on edgy shock value and content. And, well, the whole William redemption arc thingy was also part of that reason. Also, again, Amando Pony's songs were used quite a bit here. Which meant that Super FNAF 2, Happiest Day, was not only a departure in its gameplay, but also presented a whole new storyline, or at least a twisting of events from the original. That gets us to 2018, when the first actual playable demo for the game was released on April 1st. Yeah, spoilers, this was more of a joke game than really anything else. Here you play as Mr. Hugs, servicing your duties as a sentient vacuum cleaner by sucking up any trash that constantly appears in the pizzeria by these rude littering customers. I mean, there's a trash can right here, you just passed by it. Speaking of this trash can, Mr. Can Do, he provides an outlet for Mr. Hugs to dispense his trash, as you'll be unable to pick anything up if your capacity is full here. After about 2 or so minutes pass by, Mr. Hugs and the rest of his trash gang gets sick and tired of how they've been treated, being relegated to simple cleanup bots for the humans' amusement. So they decide to take matters into their own hands with a small visit to the man, the music man, who simply tells them to, well, slaughter all of mankind. So, as one does under the orders of the music man, they attempt to follow suit, supposedly out and about, slowly rising against their human oppressors. Yeah, that's That's it. The game was made in less than a day to ease the wait for the upcoming Super FNAF 2 as just a fun little side project. However, let's just say this wait wouldn't necessarily be quenched so easily. Super FNAF 2's development has been quite a long one to say the least, and I'll just get to it. This game is still, to this day, being made, with updates as early as April of this year. And with how the game's looking, I think it's probably gonna blow Super FNAF out of the water. I mean, there's like entire boss battles here. This looks cool. But other than this early gameplay footage and a few images, there's really not a whole lot else to share here. Nevertheless, I still really cherish Super FNAF. Sure, it's got its kinks, but it was really cool to see this style fleshed out for something like Five Nights at Freddy's, that I'd really never thought I'd get to see in any sort of official capacity. Well, at least back then. But until this sequel ever comes out, what am I supposed to do with this exactly? I think it might be emanating a strong spiritual essence, something out of a bad Fazbear's Fright story. I should get rid of this quick. Okay, that should do it. Wait, stay back. I'm warning you.